James used to spend his life on stage, and I just asked him when was he last on stage, and he couldn't remember. So he's very shy, James, if you've not met him. So he's probably quite nervous now. But back where he belongs, which is great, and great to be able to tell some of the story, I think. I don't want to do like a whole CV and go into all the things James did before he set up Go Proposal, because there was a lot. But I think by way of an introduction, it would be good, I think, James, for you to talk through how you arrived at Go Proposal. As I say, there were a number of ventures that you had. I know you were very self-educated, very driven, very entrepreneurial. But then things really took off with Go Proposal. And I think it'd be useful for people to understand a bit more about your background and to also maybe get a bit of value as to what you saw as the success drivers of Go Proposal, to tell us a little bit about your journey in terms of what led to that and then what you put some of that success down to.
Right, it's quite a big question,
Yeah.
that, so I'll try and be as succinct as possible. So I studied product design. That's my background in Sheffield, Hallam. So I'm a creative. I'm an artist at heart. I'm an artist business owner, as I've come to kind of understand myself. I've done loads of different jobs. I taught art in prisons for a number of years. I was a close-up magician for a number of years, obviously. I had many business ventures, and I've listed them all out on LinkedIn not long back about how they all failed, and right back from when I started making rabbit hutches when I was 15 for my girlfriend at the time and used the wrong wood preservative, and the rabbit died and we split up. So, but and everything else that's gone wrong. And when I look back on it, I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I associated freedom with entrepreneurship. My parents had worked hard jobs for large companies and kind of got shafted on the pensions and never seemed to be at home. And my dad was never like the happiest soul. And I would see my aunties and uncles who had relatively small businesses but always seemed to be happier, have nicer holidays, nicer cars, be more chilled, etc. So I always associated entrepreneurship with freedom. So I was always trying to achieve this. So as I look back through all of them ventures, I don't kind of see them as failures. I approached it with curiosity and was trying to just figure something out. And with each of those ventures, I would learn something. So, for example, within Go Proposal, which was all about Go Proposal was a pricing and proposal tool for the accounting industry, enabling accountancy firms like MAP, which is the first firm that we brought it into, to be able to price and sell your services and to empower the entire team to be able to do it. But if I go back a few years when I was a close-up magician, because it just felt like the right thing to do at the time, that was where I got my sales training from, turning up at a wedding to groups of people at tables, pissed, I wasn't pissed, sorry, they were pissed, who hate magicians, don't believe in magic, and I had like 5 minutes to convince them that I was all right and that magic was real. That was my sales training, and then fast forward a few years and it started to get kind of put to good use. So I did various things, and then 2007, 2008, when the recession hit, I got made redundant twice within 1 year. We had our first child on the way, and I had this brainwave of, I know how I'm going to make a lot of money and have all the free time in the world. I'm going to set up a marketing agency. So I started that because I felt that I had creative skills, I'd acquired some commercial acumen, and there wasn't many barriers I needed to get the designs out of the door effectively. You could design something, or you could get a website created and with a developer, and I could actually get the ideas out. So I felt I was in a lot of control with that. So I built a marketing agency, but it never felt like a business. It always felt like I had a job with assistants, even though I started to build that team. So I was always looking for different things. And you'll do this as you kind of, with your clients, you kind of look at your clients and think, maybe that's the business there. Maybe I could go into a joint venture with them, and maybe I could set this up. And I was doing all of those things, became spread far too thinly, and then that marketing agency failed. But within that marketing agency, I hit up on one thing. And I'm just reflecting on this now. Like, you can have all of these kind of projects that you work on or businesses that you work on, and you could look back and think, well, that was a failure. But there was one thing that I took from that, and therefore it kind of justified the whole thing. And the bit that I took from it was, one of my frustrations when I was pricing projects with clients was sitting with a client, and you all say it, I'll get your proposal by close of play Friday, this magical, mythical date of close of play on Friday. Close of play on Friday comes and goes. You look like a dick already. So you've already let the client down on the first part of you promise. and then you eventually send something through with your fingers crossed. They're now on a school run or involved with something else, and weeks later you finally get back in touch with them, and you kind of completely misaligned with the proposal, and I hated that process. So I developed a method that was involved a very simple piece of tech that I developed myself that allowed me to sit with a client, and whilst I was with them, to be able to have a mature conversation and agree what the fees were there and then. And if they didn't like it, what were we going to take out? And my breakthrough moment was with the agency that I had. I got to the end of the proposal meeting, and someone said, "Right, we'll sign up." And she handed me a credit card and said, "Take the deposit." I'm like, "Cool." Like, I walked out the door with it like I knew what I was doing. I went, "Megan, figure out how to get money off that because we've got the deposit." And that was my big breakthrough moment. That business failed. This was meant to be the short version of this. I then started working as a business consultant with a few clients, and each time when I went into those businesses, the big problem that they all had was how they priced and sold their services. If they could just charge higher fees, convert the client quicker, get the money in faster, and get more people within that business being salespeople, and then upgrade their existing clients into higher and better services, they would solve most of the problems in their business. Like, you speak to businesses and said, "Oh, I've got a recruitment problem. I can't get good staff. I can't find the staff I need." You can if you can pay them enough. So it's not really a recruitment problem you've got. It's I'm not making enough money problem. So I solved that problem for business after business. And then I met a guy called Paul Barnes at a mastermind event that was organised by Gareth Everson in Harrogate. And
Centre of the universe.
Centre of the universe. And I came to Manchester and said, "Let me review your pricing and sales process." And he said, "No, we've got it all figured out. It's all good." But I reviewed it anyway. And then we developed Go Proposal.
Brilliant. Thanks for the short intro. So the next thing I was going to say, you've touched upon some of it there. You did go off on one a bit.
Sorry.
Go Proposal was never born out of a love for technology. You don't come from a technical background. You've not had any training in writing code or building technology.
Useless.
And Go Proposal, many tech businesses go through the hockey curve effect that everybody knows. You've got to have big pockets, whether that's your own cash or you're bringing in debt or investors from somewhere else. They go through a long period of spending lots and lots of money in the hope that they'll come out the other side. The vast majority fail during that journey, never come out the other side. Some become the unicorns and massively scale out the other side. Go Proposal was profitable within 3 or 4 months, I think. It generated revenue within a couple of months. Despite you having no technical background and no experience and no connections in the accounting sector.
Yeah.
I need a question now, don't I?
I can take it from there.
How did that happen?
Yeah. So because of the failure of the agency I had, there was a very difficult period in that we had to remortgage the house. My wife and I split up at the time. It was like a painful period. I'm from Doncaster, which is a relatively small town where everyone knows you, and relationships that I developed shut down because they didn't want to be associated with me with a failed business and all this stuff. So it was a painful period, which was useful in when I set this business up, because you were our accountancy firm, and you got to the bottom of that pain to understand what that driver was. And I said, I never want to be in this position again. So what do we have to get in place to make it right? So you helped us to set up that financial structure in place to, and things that kind of caused me stress. The fact that, did I have enough money for our tax bill at the end of the year? Right, we'll set up a separate account for that. Your money will always be to one side. You need to set up 3 months of overheads and then 6 months of overheads. We'll always keep them in an account. So we understood what was kind of causing me emotional distress, and we had those things in place. And so, because with regards to investment, because I never wanted to get into debt, and because I'm a tight bastard, and because I don't understand it, I think it's a combination of those things. I didn't want to get involved with investment. And we built Go Proposal. It was a plugin on WordPress to start with. That was a really simple piece of tech, and a WordPress developer. So I had this idea that, could we build a piece of SaaS using WordPress multi-sites to build the SaaS software? Because, and this, having no understanding of software actually was really a gift here, because I'm like, I don't understand this. Like, I'm looking at a piece of software and I'm looking at a WordPress multi-site, and they seem to be the same thing to me. They're driven by a central database, the separate installs, we've got the concept of users, we've got passwords. Like, most of it seems to be done there. Can't we just build this piece of software on top of that, and I don't have to do this first part of the building? I don't have to maintain it. It's already been maintained by someone else. And I was in a hotel in Manchester and I was having this call, one developer in Australia, and he says, yeah, I think we can do it. I'm like, what we're talking cost-wise? It's about $4,000. I'm like, okay, we'll go for it. But then I raised the money. I got 2 accountancy firms to invest $2,000 each to get life, for it to be free for life, to be able to fund the start of the project. And people talk about a minimal viable product, but it's not minimal enough. So once we kind of scoped it out, we halved the scope and then halved it again. And we just thought, what is the absolute minimum that we need to get out the door and start getting cash in from people? And that was the point.
And do you think it got much more sophisticated than that afterwards? Because I would argue that actually the product we sold 4 years later wasn't that much unrecognisable from the products that we first launched. It was still in the same technology. It was still relatively the same thing.
Yeah, no, it didn't change that much. We did have some things on, but we had one of our philosophies, which was any feature request from any customer, we ignored it, and we never even wrote it down, never recorded it, just fucked it right off. And the view is, honestly, it's the best strategy, because what happens then is eventually you'll start hearing the same request over and over again, and that's the only one to pay attention to, not the whims of people. And there were 3 components what we built. We built the education piece, which we'll go on to. We built the software, and we built a really strong community. And they were the 3 components that enabled firms to do things. And I always remember, like, we ended up going overseas with it, and we were quite big in Norway for some reason. And the second biggest accountancy firm in Norway got the product, and they were like, right, we love the way it works, and we love this, but it doesn't fit in with our processes. We have all these different partners, and they want to kind of price in slightly different ways. So if you can give us that functionality, we will sign up for it. I'm like, absolutely not. You need to change your processes to use this software, because the way we're doing it is right. And so it was about being confident in the processes that we developed and the values, and not moving from it, even if it meant us losing a big client. And a month later, they came back to us and said, yeah, we've adjusted our processes. I'm like, right, now we'll sign up. So it was keeping it really tight. And the other thing with software, people add loads of preferences into software. Adding preference into software is lazy, because it means that I haven't thought through what the layout should be, or the fact that the logo should be the top right, or the fact that the optimal font size is 11 point, or whatever it may be. We did all of that research to start with and said, this is it. And again, we lost a big client in the UK because they wanted a smaller font. And they're like, can't you just do it? I'm like, probably, but we're not going to, because that's the right size font. It's good for inclusivity and for printing and various things. So if this is really a deal breaker, you're losing shitloads of cash. But if you think that having a smaller font size is the thing that's going to change your life, then fair enough. But you're not having it with us. So it was just sticking to our principles, I think.
So you talked there a lot about what helped us, I think, to get started in the first place, very low-cost technology. Then scaling a tech business is the next phase. That's very different from starting a tech phase. But we stayed pretty lean. Like it wasn't just an early incubation period and then we invested a lot of money. The next period was all about how we're going to scale, how we're going to attract customers. And I don't expect lots of people are very interested to understand what was behind that, and it's very clear to me and all those people that are here today that know GoProposal and know the GoProposal community and the GoProposal world was down to your ability to influence on stage, on webinars and videos in the Facebook community. So as well as starting very lean, we also scaled very lean because the 2 things that most tech businesses spend a lot of money on, development and marketing, you found ways to do that. So I think my question is, where did that come from, your ability to be able to help people through content marketing? Yeah. And then my follow-on question to that, once you've explained that, is do you think that's something that you would be advocating everybody should be doing because it's cost effective, it's founder led and all the rest of it? Or if not, what's your advice to the introverted people here, or the people that don't want to be in front of a camera and don't want to build a business that way?
I'm trying to keep all of those questions in my head that you got there, and I'm just going to probably answer a different question. So please pull me back on track. So again, all of my experience in marketing and with my agency and various things that I'd learned and helping many businesses out across a range of industries. They'd been my playground for years and, read some great books and various things. So I was able to take all of that learning and apply it. I remember when I first started in this space, someone rang me up and said, "You've made a huge mistake picking the accounting industry. He said it'd be a nightmare for you. They don't want to spend any money. They won't trust you because you're not from within the industry. Like they hate selling. Like you pick the worst product in the worst sector." And I said, "The human beings at the end of the day with hopes and dreams and fears, and I'm just going to speak into that." And so I led with educational marketing. And with educational marketing, what most people do is, it's kind of, even the good stuff is like 90% education, but 10% I'm trying to get you to buy my shit at the end of the day, right? Pure education is, I'm going to help you regardless of whether you buy our products or not. I actually didn't care whether people bought our products or not. I developed this mission that I wanted to help accountancy firms to avoid the mistakes that I'd made in my agency. The reason why my agency ultimately failed is because we didn't have the finance function in place in it. I was acting on 18-month-old data, and I know the pain of where that leads you to. And we didn't invest enough into that finance function, but likewise, our accountant didn't help us enough either, because you don't know what you don't know as a business owner. So I wanted to empower accountants to help their clients to make sure they were serving them to the very best of their ability, and that was led through education. One of my favourite comments once we'd sold the business, completed my earn-out period, and announced that I was leaving the space, this guy had commented on this post. Lots of people did, but this guy commented and he put, "Thank you so much for everything you've helped me with. Completely changed my business, changed my life, and I never even used your product." And I thought, "Didn't you?" I thought you did. Like, I'd known him for years, this guy, and I swear he's never even tried it. And that was my favourite comment of everybody's, because that fulfilled what I was trying to do, which was to genuinely serve 100%. It has to be 100%. It can't be 99% because you'll be sniffed out. It has to be 100% I'm trying to help you. So we started to do that with educational content. I wrote a book, which took me a week to write it. The first one had typos in it and everything. I didn't give a shit. I just wanted it to make a noise when it hit a table. That was my only brief. It was so thin, Amazon wouldn't even let me put a title on the spine. But I got it out the door. And then over the years it evolved, and during COVID, which was a few years later, I rewrote the whole book, and it was actually a proper decent book by that point. It's still the highest rated book in the accounting industry in the world. I got it to become a #1 bestseller. I became a director of the accountancy firm, and you was a director of Go Proposal. That really gave me some credibility, because it meant I could stand on stage and say, as the director of an accountancy firm, and like, it gave me instant credibility. But like, and MAP was the testing ground for all of these strategies as well. So that was really good. The other thing I observed was, throughout my magic career, I became quite good at performing. I developed an app called Magic Dad, where I had to produce all these videos to train dads in how to become magical in the eyes of their kids. It's still available on YouTube for free. I can share a link with you. But all of that was developing my video training. And I looked at this space and thought, no one will be able to produce as much video content as me. Because the big companies, they have too much bureaucracy and too many processes to go through. They won't be able to get it out in time. And the smaller businesses won't have the depth of knowledge that I've got to be able to share. So I just thought, I'm taking over. I'm just going to dominate this space with a view of posting a video every single day. And because we had the community generated the content. So I always remember, this is one of the best examples. Kieran Phelan, a guy, an accountancy firm in Ireland, posted, "I've just been asked for a discount by a client. What do I say?" So he posted that in the community. And I'd set my conservatory up to film in. So I had this really nice background with like a Barcelona chair, looking really neat. And all the kids' toys and shit were there. So I was kicking all the kids' shit out of the way, set a camera up there, because you only need a little corner that looks good, right? So then I would put my Rode lapel mic on, and I said, "Right, if anyone ever asks you for a discount, this is the only answer you ever need to give, and they will always pay full price." So I gave the answer, posted it in the community, which is a safe space. These are all Go Proposal users. They're all our fans. They all love us. So it's a safe space to post stuff. And they all gave it the thumbs up and loved it and was really grateful for the answer. So now they validated that piece of content, posted it straight onto LinkedIn, and within 24 hours it had 100,000 views. But I knew it was going to pop, because it was a client-led question, not me just inventing shit that I wanted to share. A genuine client-led question. it was validated in the group and then posted there. And then I developed a way of then taking that content, crafting emails off the back of it, carving it up and posting it off different social platforms.
I think people might want to know what the answer is.
I know they do. They all want. If anyone ever asks you for a discount, the only answer is absolutely not, but don't blame me for asking. And I guarantee they will pay full price. You will never lose that client. They will always pay full price.
So the other question was, everybody can see here today that you're a very confident person, very good in front of camera, very good on stage. It's one thing knowing that content is important and knowing that it can work.
Yeah.
But is it for everybody? Can it be trained? Does it matter about your style? It might be hard for you to say because you are good at it. But that's why I wanted to ask you the question.
I wasn't always good at it. My first 100 videos were shit. And that's what I said to you when I first got you doing your videos. And you did the first one. So I said, yeah, that's the first shit one. Let's just get 99 more to go and we'll start getting to the good stuff. But it's literally that. Just get through them. I've got my friend's a physiotherapist and I've got him doing videos. His first ones were horrible. And now he's just starting to get to do them. One of my techniques was I would only ever do my videos to one of two people, which was either to Paul or to a guy called Ewan Brown in Scotland. Both of you would say to me, James, just cut the shit and tell me what you mean. Like they would just want me to say the truth. So sometimes I'd be doing a video to camera like this, and I just sound like a dick. Like this is not me. And then the bit that I get edited off the video is, right, Ewan, or right, Paul, right. And then I'm just into talking to Paul, and I would just connect with him. And people would watch my videos and say, it was like you were talking to me. And it's because I was talking to one person. I use this technique with all of my marketing, and it's so subtle and so powerful. I ended up building out 3 years worth of email content that would go out every week. And people would thank me for my emails that got sent to them. All of my emails were written in Gmail first, with Paul's email address at the top, and I would only ever write an email to Paul. And if I wouldn't send him that email in that format and that style, why the fuck would I send it to 10,000 people? So I would write it in there, and I would literally copy and paste it into our email software. And it's like, well, I'll just write it in my email software. You can't write it in your email software because in your head, you're thinking, this is going out, it's a broadcast. It's going out to all these people, and you'll break the human connection. When I made that one shift, I started getting replies to emails. So I developed ways to really connect with people. The answer is, the reason why I like video is because video is top of the tree. If you can produce video content, especially with AI now, I can extract the audio from it, I can produce email content, I can produce reports, and everything else spills out of video content. That's why it's top of the tree. I believe that everyone can do video in your style. It doesn't have to be, over the top. It can be very, like your videos would be calmer than my videos. I'm going to be all this and all this shit. And some people will watch my videos and hate them and resonate with yours. The key is to be authentic to you. It's about bringing you to the party. That's what people are wanting to connect with. A great person to follow, I think, is Mr. Beast. You know Mr. Beast? Yeah, #1 YouTuber in the world. Was offered $1.5 billion for his YouTube channel and turned it down. And he's quite a geeky, quite an awkward character on camera, and he doesn't kind of become something he's not. And it's that actually works because he's just real with it. There's a really good interview with Joe Rogan if you want to go and check him out and learn it. So I think everyone can do it, but the hard part is being your authentic self. I used to watch your videos. I'd be like, it's not you. It's not you talking to me on this video. I need to get you back to you. And that's the only person I need to get you back to. And that's the hard bit, and that will take the first 100 videos.
Did you find it difficult when you did get the negative feedback?
Yeah, I've been getting negative feedback for a long time. So I was quite used to it. So I always remember once I'd sent an email out. This was well before GoProposal, and so it goes out to thousands of people, and someone wrote back straight away saying, your emails are shit, take me off your list. And that was my, oh God. And then I got something else, like, these are horrible, and then just like waved it into me. Then the next email was from a guy with a 300 million revenue business saying, I've just shared this with everyone on my team, when can you come and start working with us? And it's like, you've just got to, it's so hard because you like do a post or a video and you get 100 comments. Oh, I love this. This is great. Just what I needed to hear. And then someone says you're a prick, and that's the only, it's the only one you like want to answer.
Me.
Yeah. So that is hard to take, and I don't know how you.
Well, I think what you're saying is, and you always said this to me, that as long as one person has got value from your video, although you might focus on negativity, that's human nature. If nobody liked it, that might give you a bit of a feedback for next time. But as long as somebody got value for it and someone said something positive, that'd give you a push that maybe it's them, not you, in terms of those that didn't like it. And like you said, it's not for everybody. You've got to be a bit daring in terms of what you put out there. Yeah. Otherwise, it's going to be bland. And it's better to have likers and haters than just down the middle.
Yeah,
nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the more you do it, you're getting. Someone said to me, if you're not getting criticism, you're not doing enough. Yeah. You know, so you've got to get to a point of criticism, and genuinely, and it's nice to get likes and lots of comments and all this stuff. But if someone would put, and even to this day, someone puts, I needed to hear that today. Mm-hmm. I think I've done my job. That's all I need to do. Yeah. But just with back to video, guys, we developed this concept, and I've got a term for it now because Ryan Reynolds uses this term, but I learned it. I was doing it for years until I had this idea of fast advertising, of speed. People don't think of speed as important, and I think with agencies it's quite difficult to package that up and sell that. But for example, we'd go to like a Zero-Con event, and they would have all these massive cameras and be filming it and beautiful production, but it would take them 3 or 4 weeks to get the video out the door. I used to film it to start with, and then I hired someone to do it. We would film it, do a good enough job. It'd be like 85% good enough. We'd do wrap-up interviews with people, and I would do a piece of camera, and we'd go and get some nice B-roll footage and stuff like that. If the event finished at 4 p.m., the video had to be produced and out the door by 6 p.m. on the final day, because that is the greatest relevancy of that event. When people are leaving that event and on the train on the way home, that is when their peak and the relevancy of that event is at its greatest. The next day, when they're back in their businesses, reading their emails, you've lost them. You've lost half the people. So you're better off getting an 85% quality video out the door the same day than 100% quality video 3 weeks later. My videos used to get more views than zeros. And I know theirs cost tens of thousands of pounds to produce, and I was getting ours out the door. How you package that up as an agency and how you communicate speed as value, there is a challenge to that, but I do believe there's something to win in there.
Brilliant. I'm going to pass over to questions quite soon, because I think people will have lots of things on their mind that they'd like to ask you. So whilst we're all together, that would be good. So prepare your questions, please. There's your trigger. You did a podcast with Stuart recently on the Matt Breen podcast, where you went quite deep into the sales process and the grueling sales process and the due diligence that we were put under from a PLC organisation, as you would expect. You also, so that was one of my takeaways, what I think were really valuable for people that are here to listen more about that. So I'm not going to go into that now. You also talked about the fact that the business was always built to sell, and you told every employee when they came in, we're building this business to sell. So everyone was on the same page, and if they didn't like that, then it's better not bringing them in rather than coming on false pretenses. The more exposing part of the podcast, I guess, was your experience of, I'm going to call it an anticlimax, you might call it something different, but the coming down from selling a business and the period that you've been through in the last 2.5 years. Yeah. Talk to us about how you felt, why you wanted to sell a business, and then how you felt following selling the business, and maybe why it wasn't quite what you hoped for it to be.
I think I'd always, obviously the podcast goes into a lot more detail than I'm going to go into now, but I'd always associated money with freedom, and if I could get a few £1 million, then I would have choices of doing things. So we set a goal. You got to do a financial planning exercise to say, right, well, how much money do you need to live the rest of your life and not have to work again and do all the things you want to do and put your kids through this school and put the deposit down on the house and various things like that. So we did that planning exercise, which is really valuable to start with. And then we set a goal of £5 million to achieve. I'm just sharing that with you, We set to achieve. And then that became the driver. And then all of our management reports and everything that we did with my accountancy place, then MAP now. What's called my account? What are you shaking your head at? What's called my accountancy place? It was MAP. It was then, now it's called MAP. So, but then everything became much clearer then, because our monthly management reports and everything was driving us towards this goal. I mean, we had a revenue target that we were trying to hit, so life became much simpler. So I I wanted to get to that point because to me, it meant freedom of selling the business at that point. And then we got it to the point where we started to get interest from different companies, and then we took it to an M&A company, and we took it to market, and we got various offers and various things, and we exceeded our target, and sold the business. And it was a positively grueling process. You know, it was 1,000 questions to answer over a 9-month period. I was waking up at 4:30 every morning for the first few months, and 3:30 every morning, just my head dinging, just turning on, because I could just see this prize at the end of it. And I thought, I'm not stopping. I'm dragging this over the line, whatever happens. And I had all these milestones written down in my garage. I used to go and look at them, and every milestone represented it either stops here or you're allowed to go to the next one. That's all it meant, you know. And I was just determined to get it over the line for the sake of my family and for the team and everyone. I've lost my train of thought.
Well, I suppose the anti-climax.
Oh, the anti-climax. Sorry. Yeah.
But I want to add to that, because I think what you've described there is some of the come down is maybe it wasn't all you expected to be in terms of how you'd feel, but also you've come down from a 9-month period of getting up at 4:30 every day. Yeah. And the intensity of that. I just wanted to sleep on the last day. I had to go and get all these interviews on the last day to make the announcement to the market. And I was driving around the country gathering all these interviews and filming them. And I thought, please just let me sleep on the last day. I just want to sleep. And at 2:30, it woke up. I'm like, fuck. So anyway, that was my last day. And I remember my mum, when we did the deal, my mum rang and said, are we celebrating? We're having a party. And I'm like, no, we are not. It was like a marathon runner getting over the line, and someone wanted to go and have a party with him. I just want to sleep. So it's very anticlimactic. It was done during COVID, so there was no meeting people. And then, it was like a date on a Friday afternoon. It dragged on for hours, and you've just got, respectfully, the most boring set of people on a Zoom call, all just saying, right, have we all got the signatures then? Are we all happy? Yeah. Right. That's that then. That's done. Okay. Bye then. And I just went to the kitchen. I'm like, it's done. We've done it. And that was it. And cracked a champagne cork off. And then a couple of weeks later, I was in Manchester, and the bank rang me and said, Mr. Ashford, a large deposit has just hit your account. I'm like, fuck yeah. Sent it to my wife. And I thought it would make me feel something. I had this dream or this hope that if I can get to this point, this is why I think we aim to achieve goals, whether it's financial goals or work goals or sporting goals or whatever it is, that when I get to that point, I will feel this. I believe I will feel this way. And I got to that point, and I didn't feel any different to how I'd felt before, except now I didn't have this thing that I'd been creative with, that fulfilled my curiosity, that was a creative outlet, that allowed me to be artistic, a space where I could help people to flourish, and all those things actually made me me. I now didn't have that anymore. I had this lump sum that I became attached to. I'd gone from a mindset of playing to win for all my life. I'd only have been climbing a mountain, playing to win, and then I won, and then I began to play not to lose. My head just completely switched. So I'm climbing this mountain. There was a brief moment of, yes, got here. And then, fuck, what if I fall off? Shit. And like just absolute panic. And what's next? And where do I go next? And that was the anticlimax. So that's the immediate anticlimax. Yeah. How did that change, develop? That was 3.5 years ago now, which is crazy. So you spent 2 years working for Sage.
2.5 years ago.
2.5 years ago. You spent 2 years working for Sage.
Yep.
And now you're 6 months post working with Sage. What was the 2 years like working with Sage, and what was it like after that?
Yeah, I think as good as can be expected. I think when you're working for a large PLC, you're not entrepreneurial anymore. You're not playing to win. Someone playing to win. I was like Eric Cantona in that team, and thankfully my line manager was Alex Ferguson, and he allowed me to do a few kung fu kicks into the crowd every now and then, and he protected me, he shielded me from stuff. So I think I couldn't have asked for any more, being in an environment where you don't actually want to disrupt things. You've got shareholders, you've got a share price, you actually want to keep things as they are. So people like us, creative people, are a nightmare for people like that. So they weren't my people, respectfully. And there were some good people there, and I enjoyed the time, but we're playing not to lose. It's not an environment to play to win.
I think that's what makes it even more alarming, because you say you were lucky. You were actually in an organisation you didn't mind. I think
Yeah.
you were happier than you thought you were going to be, and definitely what I thought you were going to be.
Yeah.
I'd written that earnout off a long time before. There's
Yeah,
no
yeah,
way
yeah.
you were going to sit on your hands for 2 years, but you did.
Yeah.
You stayed through the journey. But in yourself, how did you feel during that and post that?
I think difficult because of the Brave New Workbook that Sarah that shared. Sarah that shared the book, yeah, amazing. There was a huge influence on Go Proposal, creating a space where we could be very experimental. It's a fantastic book, and we used a lot of those principles in that business. So we created a space where our team could flourish, they could fail, they could try different things. We brought Marianne in, wherever Marianne is, and she really helped us with our team and helped them to create these great spaces. Stuart came in and really helped us as well and challenged our thinking. But it was a space where we could, experiment is the best thing. So let's just try it. Let's try that. I think we should onboard this way. Fine, try it. Let's get some information. In a month's time, we'll know. Not go and conduct a survey and go and do a focus group. Bullshit. Like, people do that stuff because they're scared of losing the job. That's why they do it. So then if it fucks up, they can say, well, at least I did the focus group and I got the information right. Where we were like, just give it a whirl, just see what happens. So it was a very different environment. What was your question again?
It was more about you rather than the business and the environment you're in. So and maybe it's more interesting post Sage, because that's when you literally didn't have a thing anymore. You didn't have a job, you didn't have a business.
Yeah, but I think my big thing was throughout the period of Sage, was my team that had created this space and environment for them, to see them being in an environment where they couldn't necessarily operate in the same flourishing way. I found that hard, and I'm not to knock Sage again if this is being filmed, but just it's just the nature of a PLC. It's just the nature of a large organisation. You have to fit into silos and shit. And then when I got to the end, so I'd already won. I had 2 payments to come, so I could only now lose. So I was now just playing not to lose. I just had to not be fired for gross misconduct. It was a pretty low bar, but I just became fearful of losing, right?
You still got close to it.
Yeah, still got close to it. Twice I got close to it. It was horrible, right? But anyway, yes, so playing not to lose. But I became fearful, which wasn't me, wasn't my nature, and then came to the end of it and left, and then dropped off an absolute cliff and hit the floor, literally hit the floor, sobbing. If ever anyone has said, I've had a breakdown, I'd have always been like, get a grip, come on, get on with it. Looking back now, I know I had a breakdown. I fully broke down.
Why?
I think we need to break down. I think that the version of me that had gotten me to that point isn't the version of me that's going to carry on. I needed to be it's who we become, and the person I'd become had got me to that outcome. And somewhere within me knew that person I couldn't be the same person to now carry on in this new world that I'd created for myself. So I had to break down, and I think people see a breakdown as a negative thing. I read a great book a few years ago. I forget the title, but in the book, it talks about the importance of a breakdown, and sometimes we try and resist it and we come trying to pull back out of it, but we need to break down fully. We need to fully break down. And the analogy in the book is of a butterfly, in that when a caterpillar turns into a butterfly in the chrysalis, whatever it's called, I used to think that the caterpillar shrunk into a black thing and then sprouted wings, but it doesn't. It fully liquefies, and if you was to cut the pupa open and it would pour out. And so it fully liquefies, and there's a battle between the caterpillar cells and the imago cells, and the imago cells are trying to get it to become a butterfly, and the soup kind of mixes from backwards and forwards until eventually the butterfly wins. The other part of this is butterflies have teeth. Fucking sharing some shit with you today, right? Butterflies have teeth, and they have to bite their way out of the cocoon or whatever it's called, right? And they have to fight their way out. There is a direct correlation between the difficulty of getting out and how long the butterfly will live for. If you cut the butterfly out and allow it to escape, it will die immediately. It needs the battle of getting out. And so I felt I needed to go through the breakdown. I think loss of control, loss of the reasons what prompted it, I'm not quite sure. But I had to go through that breakdown. And then I got help. I assembled a team of people around me. Becky, my wife, was brilliant. She got a team of people around me to help me and got through the first part. And I'm not fully rebuilt. I've got my analogy, I've got scaffolding up. So I'm largely rebuilt. The scaffolding's up. Occasionally something will blow through or rain in. I'm like, what the fuck? But I know that I'm stable enough not to blow over.
So would it be fair to say that selling a business didn't give you the happiness that you were hoping for?
Yeah, definitely not. And the reason I've shared this because it may be that you don't want to sell your business or people aren't at that point yet. People that have sold the business that have heard that podcast or I've shared that with have really resonated with me and rang me personally and thanked me for it because it's really helped them to make sense of things. But for me, it's the fight. Like the bit that lights me up is the curiosity. I'm getting involved with some other businesses now, and the bit that's just exciting me is just curiosity. What if? And when I look back to Go Proposal, the thing was exciting was, can you build a SaaS business with no cash? Can I build a business and sell it? Can I bring in a set of junior people? I'm looking at you here, Marianne. Can I bring in a set of junior people and get them performing consistently at a very high level? Can I get this business to not only run without me, but actually to grow without me completely? Can we scale in an industry where no one knows us? Can I use my content marketing initiatives to drive a constant flow of customers? These were all the curious questions I had, and it was the answering of those that I loved and lit up. And then it was all that to the top of the mountain, and then got to the top, and I forgot about all of that and became attached to the prize instead. And I've listened to lots of sports people since then, and I think it was Tyson Fury was saying that when you look at a boxer in the ring, punching, sweating, tiring, getting smashed in the face, bleeding, all this stuff, it looks chaotic to everyone else. Yet that is where they're at the most peace, and the chaos is when they're outside of that. And looking at it, I need the fight, I need the struggle, I need that battle, because that is when I'm at my calmest and my strongest. Whereas when I don't have any of that, that's when I feel chaotic and lost.
Do you think you'd be happier today if you hadn't sold Go Proposal?
No, it was needed. It was what the goal was, and it would have been, for me not to have done it would have been selfish for my family, for what the goal was to achieve for them, and for you, and for the team as well. It would have been. I got it to a point, we got to $1.5 million revenue, and I was all right winging it up to that point. But I'm like, I'm proper. I don't even know what to do anymore. Like Jack would come to me and say, "What should we do about this?" I'm like, I don't know. Please go go and contact a bigger company and ask them what we should do because I have no idea anymore. So I became more nervous in my decision making because and didn't want anything to break. So it would have been selfish of me to have carried on past that point.
So it sounds like it's more a matter of you maybe didn't do enough work on yourself, preparing yourself for what a sale how it would make you feel, and what would be involved in both the process and the post completion as well.
Yeah, and Stuart had kind of prepped me for this, and you talked about Stuart that I can't remember what the boxer was, but the boxer had trained to become. Yeah, trained to become the heavyweight champion, but never trained to be the world heavyweight champion. And it was the battle on the way to that. But I don't know if anything can prepare you for it. And this is the other thing is that you can't tell anyone about it because no one gives a shit. I'm really struggling. I've got all this money, all this free time in the world. Oh my God. Like, you can't post that online. If I'm sat in a hospital, I can post a picture of myself with like something, and everyone will give you sympathy. You can't post that in your car saying, really struggling today, guys. I'm like, don't know how I'm going to get through the day. No one gives a shit. I wish I had your problems is what people would think.
What would your advice be, though? Because people here today obviously come hear about your story, but they might be about to go through that process themselves. What would your advice be to better prepare for that?
I think you've got to go through it. Jim Carrey talks about. I remember hearing Jim Carrey talk about this, which is, he said, being rich and famous is not going to bring you the happiness you want, but don't stop trying to become rich and famous. Become rich and famous just to discover that is not actually what it is that you need. And at that point, you then have to go inwards. And again, Stuart used to say, like, who makes the clown laugh? Like, you need to work on yourself. And the concept of counselling and a therapy certainly in this country, and I think certainly for men, and certainly for northern men, like it gets worse and worse, doesn't it? Like not something to have. And I also don't think that therapy is necessarily healthy as a long-term thing to constantly dwell on things, but I think it's very healthy to go through it and to detach from certain things, or to understand how you're feeling about certain things. So I think to have a therapist is good. I think to have a close group of friends. Throughout the sales process, I really tightened up my group, my close contacts, and was very careful as to who I shared what we were doing with, and my energy levels. And I think it's really important that you have that tight group of people around you who you can say, help. And I did have this throughout the process. I remember being on my hands and knees another time, upset throughout the growth of GoPosal, and I text 3 people, help. It was late at night, and you were one of them, and you rang me up straight away. What's up? What's going on? What do we need to sort out? And it's just having that group of people around you who are for you. I remember someone explained this to me. You have 2 types of friends in your life. Friends who are people who are for you, and people who are for what you are for. So if you're working on the same thing together, in the same business together, they might appear that they're for you, but they're not really for you. They're just for the thing that you are for. They're for the success of that business. If you both support Man United, then you think they're your mate. They're not your mate. They're both for Man United. But then if you switch to Man City, they're never going to speak to you again, right? And it's rare that you find people who are genuinely for you. And it's identifying who. And if you've got 5 in your life, you're doing really well. And it's identifying them people, and talking to them and getting that help, I think.